What's up, y'all? I'm trying to get my co-host in here right now, so bear with me. No, I want to see if he can get added. Not on live. All right, so Sean, when you're on here, let me know in the comments below because I want to see what happens when you press request. So let me know. There we go. Let's do that. There we go. I think that might work. Sean, I just invited you. There he is.
Let's go. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I don't have a picture for you though. All right,
All
guys.
right.
So I want to do a quick introduction for those of you that are new to the community or have been with the community quite a while. As a lot of you know, me and Sean have launched a podcast officially. We have 3 official episodes on YouTube, but we want to try something a little bit different.
Hold
Um,
on. It says live access needed to go live on video.
oh,
It says as a
so
guest, it says you can go live on audio.
so I think it's because you have a year under 1,000. But you
Yeah.
could still go. That's fine. That's fine. You could still go audio for now.
Yeah.
So, guys, what that means essentially is let's help Sean get to 1,000 because what we want to start doing is we want to get to a spot where we can start hosting these podcasts via TikTok. So, let me do a quick introduction for you to what the podcast is all about, and then we'll kind of segue from there. And obviously, you guys are going to be massively helpful in the comments below because what this podcast is all about is what's going on in the economy right now. Anything finance related. I'm a finance guru, and Sean is a marketing guru. So we've been talking a lot lately on our both mine and his pages a lot more about the Trump situation and how much of a marketing ploy this is. So these are the types of things that we talk about on the podcast, but obviously we want to treat this kind of like an open forum. So let's get interactive in the comments below, but let's help Sean out as well because we want to get to a spot where Sean can actually share some video and you guys can actually see his face because he sent me a picture before this podcast started and he looking like a dime and a half. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
So Sean, why don't you tell him a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm glad to start this conquest of us jumping on here because when I jumped on last time, I think it was yesterday when you went live, where I had the idea. I was like, dude, we need to go live and really chat things up because we can really cause some chaos online. But
Yeah.
yeah, Sean Severs. I've been advertising on the internet for the past almost eight years, going on almost a decade. Seems crazy, and I've been in the internet marketing space where one of my first exposures of any marketing that I consume was Ty Lopez here in my garage. Just bought this new Lamborghini here, and then fun fact. Me and Rick met beforehand, which was we were involved in network marketing,
Yeah.
and network marketing is where things started off, where I got my feet wet when it came to speaking in front of people, overall getting my communication skills better, because that's the thing that will move all needles in life, that makes the most sense, that I hear everybody talk about, or that's the common denominator of people that can make something of themselves when it comes to a skill set in 2024, and and be efficient and effective as being a master communicator. And it started with network marketing. It evolved into buying a course from like Justin Senior, Ty Lopez. In 2015, I met Ty Lopez a year later after buying his 67 steps. And then after that, I shortly moved after going through a year of transitioning from network marketing to going full-time marketing, where I was selling t-shirts print on demand, And now my job is to, I have an agency named Storyline Marketing where we align the story with local businesses in America, where we work with home service businesses, we work with automotive shops, and our job is to simply film their story and then advertise that, because as you guys have probably seen, there's a lot of people that don't know how to advertise or that have
Yeah.
traditional businesses, which is causing a lot of businesses to go out of business. And so 6 months into the year, as of today, we've helped 6 to 7 different clients right now to do that. But yeah, other than that, I'm a Lions fan at heart. I play chess in my mind as well as in real life, and and now one of my hobbies and things that I enjoy to do is jumping on the podcast with my buddy Dirty Doyle, Rick Doyle. I'm learning as much as you guys are from him, and then he's learning from me. And yeah, so I want to go ahead
Yeah.
and jump on here on the regular, but that's Sean Severs in a nutshell. One of my favorite words is sensational. If that had
The-
to
I-
had to list.
and I love hearing you say that, man. It's your trademark since I've known
Yeah,
you for sure. So
yeah,
in the comments below, guys, if you guys have heard Sean's story, so Sean is an expert marketer. I mean, anytime that I have any sort of questions when it comes to advertising, this is the guy I go to. I mean, he's taken companies from $250,000 in sales up to $1 million in sales in a very short period of time. So if any of you are in the comments below and you're thinking to yourself like, hey, I want to get started in business, or I'm at a spot where maybe my business is going well, but I'd like to scale it a little bit. And what does the current, market call for attention? Because I talked about this on one of my videos yesterday, how right now the biggest currency we have on the planet is attention. And we saw it, and I'm going to segue, Sean, right into the topic at hand, because this is one that me and you have been talking a lot about on both my page and your page, is this whole Trump trial right now, and
yeah,
how it's really interesting to watch what has happened, because I mean, TikTok really puts it in front of you from a virality standpoint. Things go viral pretty much immediately. But what was interesting to watch was how much, from an emotional standpoint, people are getting involved in this thing. And it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, left or right.
yeah.
It's like either you love the guy or you hate the guy, but those emotions really were intensified because of this one verdict. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's a decision, right? That's really all it is. I mean,
Right.
guilty or innocent, look at what it's done from a marketing standpoint. I mean, Trump put out right away after his guilty verdict, immediately put out two ads marketing himself to become the
Yeah,
president. Now, if you don't think that the left's going to do the same thing, they're going to do the same thing. And this is what me and you kind of talk about a little bit, is how this is the new style of marketing right here. As long as people are getting emotional about it, it doesn't matter if it has a positive or negative type emotion. It's capturing attention, and that
right.
attention is ultimately what drives people to action. So what have you like specifically noticed, and are you changing any sort of like your marketing to kind of facilitate those types of things? Like, what do you look at with stuff like this?
So my first thought process. So yeah, this trial is insane. So I made that video yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Whenever it happened,
Welcoming
all the
Coach
days
Ashley.
blur together. Soon as Trump got sentenced, that was like insanity. And one of the first things that I consumed was Patrick David Valuetainment,
Hmm.
and they were talking. They did an emergency podcast talking about uh, reviewing it and giving their perspective on it. But they showed a clip that they basically had ready in the clip to advertise once Trump was deemed guilty.
Yeah.
And then for me, it just terrified me in the sense of, wow, this is being used very diabolically. And it just shows the contrast of how marketing can be used and how it's being used like it's never been used before. Like no one,
Yeah.
the marketing is so aggressive right now in terms of getting people to be leaning left or leaning right, and this is where this thing is so interesting to have a conversation with you guys as far as those are part of the money circle, is
Hmm.
due to the fact that marketing can really sway people's way of feeling, and you really don't have necessarily control over it if you're not aware and conscious of it. And so for me, one of the things that I'm doing, it's making me more conscious of the perception of the marketing that I'm doing for my clients or even for myself, as far as how I'm perceived to how my clients are perceived amongst their local community. Like I'm working with a chiropractor, and we're getting starting to get feedback of how they're perceived in Queen Creek. of their facility and the 20 services that they have from comments. And then we're getting a lot of positive feedback, and then we're getting some recent troll feedback of people where our client for the first time has put himself out there, and I'm like, don't delete this comment. He didn't do it, but um, it was me being
Yeah.
precautioned because a lot of people can't handle the heat, and it's interesting to see like Trump, how stoic he is in dealing with something like this. He's just immediately repackaging this negative situation, which is I tell my business owners, if something negative happens in your business, it still has an opportunity to be marketed in a positive light. And
Yeah.
regardless of what side you lean on, Trump is like, I'm still gonna utilize this. He's using the message of this is how this system or the left side is fighting against me, and the only way we're going to win this, the frame of mind, is you voting. And then I think their website hit $52 million like 24 hours after he was as soon as he was given the charges. It just shows you the support that he does has objectively, whether you're left or
Yeah.
right. So that's kind of where my mindset is at. And I'm just being more intentional and being more conscious of the I'm being more conscious of the perception that I'm putting out to the market, and most important, maybe trying some things that are a little bit more controversial in the sense for myself, because not necessarily to take a side, but to call some to to have people's hair stand up based off of some controversial topics to talk about, because that's something that I've been
Right.
learning to do for myself. And then I've been doing it for my clients, but it's definitely a muscle that needs to be built. Because like someone like Trump, he's like, let's do this, and
Yep.
it's leverage. It's leverage beyond the world in that sense. But that's kind of my thought process on it as well. That's why I felt compelled, where I was like, dude, this needs to be talked about, because what's going to happen over the next few months? It's only going to get more and more and more intense as we got 5 months left. Going into November, in terms of what's going to be weaponized, what events are going to be coming out, that's going to essentially be used to get people to be more divided. And it's a more important time for us to come together and have collective conscious conversations like this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. 100%. So, guys, in the comments below, let me know what you think right now. I know, obviously we all have our own opinions, and that's what's great about being able to get on these TikTok lives and have this open forum. And that's why we kind of wanted to experiment with something different. When me and Sean are in the studio, it's just me and him really sharing our ideas, right? But when we can come together as an entire community, and this community has been a blessing. I mean, we're 122,000 members strong and only getting stronger. And what we understand is that we're stronger together, meaning that everybody's going to come up with a different set of beliefs, opinions. They're going to come at it with different experiences and thoughts, right? And to welcome all of that stuff is really what makes this community and all of us together more powerful, is understanding that we don't know what we don't know. And we're coming at this from, okay, let's actually have an intelligent conversation and figure out how we can kind of work together. Because I think, and Sean, this is where this whole thing takes me when I think about the guilty verdict for Trump, is it's causing a lot of negative division. I mean, again, for me, it doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. I know
Right.
I fell into the trap back when, Trump was president, that I was like, I was deep into politics and, buying the whole thing and getting emotionally involved into it. But,
Right.
with this particular situation, it was kind of like one of those things where whether you love the guy or you hated the guy, as soon as the verdict came out about Trump, immediately you went even.
What happened?
He's trying to call me here, and I don't know what it is
I
or
was wondering. I
who's
was like,
trying
"You
to.
muted." I was like, "No, what happened? You muted."
Sorry, guys, I got somebody trying to call me right now. But yeah, I think what that did is that just really, um, it really divided us, or they're trying to attempt to divide us even further from a left and right standpoint. You can see it in the comments when I was on TikTok live yesterday. Is you had people that would come in just from the background and say he's guilty, like he should be in jail and all this stuff. And it's like, it's fine that you feel that way, but don't allow your emotions to get to the point where you don't have awareness any longer. And I think that's the war that we're in, is we're in a war for your intelligence, your thought process intelligence, and your emotional intelligence.
Right.
And this is from a psychological level, but from a psychological level, how the brain works is thoughts lead to emotions, which lead to actions. That's exactly how it works. So before this trial even started, you thought some way about him. You either loved the guy, you hated the guy, or you whatever it was that you thought about him. Then as the you know naturally those thoughts are going to kind of elevate as more and more news come out about him, and you're going to start to get a little bit of emotion behind it. Again, you're going to back him, you're going to like feel great for him, you're going to hope that whatever the case is. But now what they've essentially done is they've really intensified those emotions, and when your emotions get to a level where you can't control them or you don't have the awareness of them, it leads you straight into action. And this is what happens during like fight or flight, to just give an example, right? Like fight or flight, if you talk to somebody who they get in this deep emotional trauma, let's say it's like if they get in a fight with somebody, you can ask them what happened during the whole time, and they'll say, I have no idea. Like, I have no idea what just happened. Desert Wolf, that was sick. So I've never seen that before. That was super sick. So
Man, this is
um,
yeah. We're gonna get it dialed in, bro. This is all new.
yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. So if you're not aware of what's going on from your emotional intelligence standpoint, your action is going to be very much guided by what just happened. So it's okay for you to have the opinions that you have and have the emotions that you have based on that guilty verdict, but you want to have the awareness that you're feeling that, because as we get closer to November, you don't want to have your emotions take over to the point where you're not conscious of your actions. Like,
Right.
because this is the war that we're in right now. And it's from a marketing standpoint, I've never seen this level of intelligence in marketing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's definitely very very surgical. A lot of things are happening at a very strategic level, and a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of it because most people are consumers, and they're not doing enough production, and which is because again the first idea of marketing started with a campfire where there was a leader of a tribe, and he went hunting and he came back and he told the story of how he slayed said say wildebeest that he was able to come and then feed the family or feed the village. To now you've got TikTok lives, you're watching this right now, you're going to go to
Yep.
another and go to the next, you're going to consume 49 stories in the next hour, some of you guys hundreds, and not even comprehend of how much media is in your brain and how much it plays into your thought process in how you make decisions, whether you're mad, sad, whether you're optimistic, pessimistic. And for me, I do a lot of sorting of my timeline. There's certain things that I don't want to see where I'll mute, or there's a lot of people I'm always filtering through my following to make sure I'm seeing what I consciously want to see. Like I'll shout out to Dan Coe. He lives he's somebody that he's someone on YouTube that I discovered, but his videos are great. If you guys aren't familiar, he's got like 2 million followers on YouTube.
Mhm.
But he was talking about consciously filtering his feed of the things that he sees to help program how he thinks, and that's how you got to look at it nowadays. Like you're watching this, you jump on with Rick. Rick is helping you mold. He's helping you, and with the money circle, molds your relationship with money through his perspective. Is it the only perspective? No, but it has helped molding it, and it's helping a lot of you be very positive or right foot forward, um, one step forward in your finances and how you have a relationship with money. And there's also a lot of things that are negative impacting that you have to have a conversation with yourself of how many people are you following. If, like people that follow like a lot of people, it makes I always think I'm like, okay, like I think 500 people is a lot to follow, or 1,000 or 3,000 people to follow, and I'm like, how many things are you actually seeing in that day, and how many stories are you consuming, and how many of those are beneficial to you versus how many of those are negatively impacting you, and so
Right.
that conversation, no one's necessarily consciously having, and that's why we got to go ahead and have these conversations more often in this setting amongst a finance guru and then a marketing guru to bring those things together because marketing based on the marketing you consume can dictate your finances. It can dictate how much money you make versus how much money you keep versus how much money you invest. It's really interesting to think
Yes.
about it.
Yes. So with that being said, Sean, I think I want to try to experiment with something. I'm going to try to invite somebody right now. So I want to get a couple of different perspectives in marketing right
Yeah,
now.
sure,
So this
sure.
person I'm going to try to invite. Let's see if she's available right now.
No,
Uh,
I'm so focused right now. I'm gonna get 1,000 in the next 30 days. It's done. I'm all focused. We're gonna be
Yeah,
doing this.
yeah, guys. So let's also help Sean too. Sean, I mean, this guy is takes marketing to a whole new level. So if you want to understand why some people go viral, why some people just basically it looks like they just catch lightning in a bottle, he really does a good job of explaining why that is. And he does it from a psychological standpoint, but also here's why this is happening. An eye popping standpoint, again, we're talking about it right now. Attention is the new currency. And so Sean does a really good job of breaking those types of things down, but he does it from a business standpoint. So you can understand whether you're marketing yourself, right? And this is something that we talk a lot about on the podcast is when you are building a brand, that could be just branding yourself, could be building a business for yourself, could be, there's a lot of people on TikTok right now that are selling things and making income from it, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is the new age that we live in. We live in a society where it's never been easier to make money, but in order to make money, you have to be able to market yourself or market the thing that you're selling. And so, from a simplicity standpoint, Sean does a really good job of that because he makes very complicated type concepts seem extremely simple. So what I would encourage you is if this is the first time you've heard of Sean or, heard any of these concepts or ideas, the guy's a genius. I've known him for 8+ years. He's one of my really good friends. Obviously, we host the podcast together, Market Moguls, which if you guys aren't familiar with it, I'll break it down a little bit. We live in a very interesting society right now where a lot of what we see is money motivated. It doesn't matter if we're talking about politics like we are right now, or I know on our last podcast, me and Sean were talking about the difference in Victor Wembanyama, who plays in the NBA, versus Caitlin Clark, who plays in the WNBA, and why it is they get paid so differently. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that stuff has to do with marketing and it has to do with finances, period. And so that was kind of the offspring of the podcast itself was how can we tie this in to simplify everything that's happening in today's society and connect the dots? Because let's face facts, if you follow the money, you'll figure out exactly why things are unfolding the way they are, including this whole thing with Trump right now. I know that Sean just talked about it. And I mean, I heard, and I don't know how true this is, but I'm going to assume it's probably true that Trump's donation GoFundMe page actually crashed within the
Yeah.
first couple hours of the guilty verdict coming down. Now, think about that from a marketing standpoint and how much money is going into that. What I mean is, he simply marketed himself and branded himself so well. And you can love the guy or hate the guy. What I'm trying to say is take the lesson out of it. Because if you can market yourself well enough, it doesn't matter if good things are said about you or bad things are said about you, people are going to follow you. People need leaders and people want to follow somebody who resonates with them. That's why this community, the Money Circle here, has grown as quickly as it has and as big as it has, because it's 122,000 members strong who love and support each other and are part of a community that talk about finances, that make it okay to say, hey, listen, I don't know what I don't know about finances, and I'm willing to be vulnerable and ask the questions, because what we believe in this community is that financial education should be common amongst our society. And that's why this community has grown as fast as it has, is because people want to feel a part of whatever it is you're doing. So if you're somebody who's out there that's saying to yourself, like, how do I go and make money right now? How can I make ends meet in a time where inflation's high, where debt is at an all-time high, that the cost of living is out of control, you can't afford to buy a house? Basically, you're at risk of the government just throwing all of our tax dollars at different countries right now. This is the fact of the matter, right? These are the circumstances we're up against, but how do you navigate those circumstances? And you can do that by thinking outside the box, number one, doing something different than you've normally done, which means thinking a different way, but then also building something for yourself where you don't have to be dependent on somebody else, where you can simply, and again, it can be something on TikTok. You can be a creator if you want. So I'm not saying you have to, but there's a million different ways to make money. It's about figuring out what that thing is for you and then marketing for it. And I think that's what Sean does such a good job of. And that's why I'm excited for him to get to 1,000 and for us to really start taking this podcast to the next level, because this is something that, from a knowledge standpoint, is going to be beneficial for a lot of people across the globe, because you guys deserve to win financially. And when you start to understand these concepts that are happening in today's society, you're no longer victimized by what they're trying to throw at you. Because right now, unfortunately, we're in a society where money controls pretty much everything. Doesn't matter if you're looking at the food industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the news media, the political system, all of it is bought and paid for, period. And so if you understand that, and you understand that they simply want control, and you're aware of that, you don't fall into the trap of being controlled. But it starts with awareness, and it starts with understand what's going on. So yeah, Sean, but obviously this is it's a very interesting time to live in, and I'm really curious to know, like, what's going to happen over the next 6 months, because all I see is this intensifying even more. So what do you see as far as like a marketing side is concerned?
Oh, it's on the marketing side. It's going to be more important to have trust. So, not only from the marketing side in the next 5 to 6 months, but the AI element is also a factor in it, where trust in the consumer needs to be trusted, needs to trust the businesses that they give their money to. As we all know, these are things that we subconsciously know, but for business owners, it is so imperative to have a social media presence, because I'm sure people that might listen to this, when you utilize a local business or some service, or you're on Facebook, even if any of you guys are on Facebook, and you go on and you see the news feed and there's people asking common questions, just, hey, does anybody know a plumber that I could use? Does anybody know a nail salon that I can trust to get this particular service done? These questions are always streaming in my face, and it's in your feeds to some degree. For me, I purposely put it in there because I'm always trying to reverse engineer and see how people are communicating on what they need, and I'm like, how can I best deliver that in a message for my client? But consumers need to have trust in businesses, and in local businesses in this case, even not businesses, like even if you're posting online and you're watching this and you post about you graduating high school, you graduating college, you getting a promotion in your job, you're marketing yourself off of that event, whether you realize it or not. And if you can really come to grasp with that, you're building trust with people. There's people that watch your same story, your same posts, and businesses need to be trusted. And it's very imperative for businesses to display who they are, who's in their facility, who they've serviced, what experience can people expect when they utilize their businesses or the product or the services, in
Yeah.
order to be seen as the obvious choice, and overall have the business in the market, because people want to trust you before they give you their money, as opposed to somebody that doesn't have any presence at all. And so that's where my mind goes to immediately. And not only that, but the controversies of what you represent is so important going into the next 6 months. As time goes on, it is so important for people to display what they believe in, why they believe it, and them sticking to the things that they believe. And people respect that. To be in the middle for some things, people respect the fact that you stand tall in what you believe, and you're okay with the pros and cons to it. You're okay with the negativity that comes with it, but also the positivity. But in 2024, just standing tall on what you believe is a very attractive business model. It's a very attractive method of marketing when it comes to authenticity of consumers wanting it. And those are the businesses that are going to win. Those are the influencers, if you will, that are going to win as the next 6 months come about. Because on the flip side, Rick, you were talking about, there's a lot of people that were like, I'm glad Trump got he got the charges. But there's a lot of news I've been seeing of people that are on the left side. They're saying this is the last straw, where they're almost embarrassed because they see the agenda that's playing with the charges that Trump was giving, where they're like, I'm forced to either sit out or I'm forced to vote anyone else besides Joe Biden as far as the election goes. And it's interesting to see a lot of things are shifting in the market, of people are like, he got what he deserved because they don't like what he says or how he talks. but there's also a lot of people that are Democratic in this case, and they're saying, wow, like I see exactly what's happening right now. None of this stuff adds up. There's no real charges. It's like there's and it's forcing people to take action, which is a great thing. But going back to the fact, people want authenticity. People want trust in what the message is saying, and they want to trusting you isn't being perfect. Trusting you is being truthful and having accountability in the things that you say. Whether you said something 6 months ago, Rick could say something a year ago, and it might have transformed, and him taking acknowledgement in that. But that right there is
Yeah.
what I'm seeing is the most important thing as time goes on. In this case, 6 months going into the election is what people want, and those are the people that are going to win. That's why our clients are winning, specifically for that reason. But more people that do that, the more attention and traffic that they get and whatever they want to do with that traffic and attention. Not to go
Well,
too long.
let's bring it in a little bit and let's correlate that to what exactly happened with the Trump trial, right? Because something just sparked within me as you said that. It's one of those
That's why I
things
like
that
talking with you, bro.
oh yeah, man. We just as you start saying stuff, I'm it's like ideas popping up in the head. I wish I could just have the little pop 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 thing above my head like every time. It's like so so but kind of thinking about it from that angle, the political angle and everything that we saw with Trump's guilty verdict itself, you know, it's one of those things that when you are somebody who is just unapologetically you,
Hmm.
it's something that is to be admired at the same time
Yep.
because there's a lot of people, unfortunately, who they won't stand and be authentic in who they are. They're afraid to do that because they're afraid of what other people think. But to be honest with you, and this is what this goes to show you, this whole guilty verdict thing, it goes to show you that if you're somebody who wants to succeed in today's marketing right now, you have to have thick skin and you have to be okay standing up and saying this is what I believe in no matter what it is and be unapologetically you. Because if you're somebody who just constantly flexes and you're like, "Oh yeah, okay, well I don't like this, but I'm just going to go with it." And
Right.
you're just kind of like a pushover, if you will. There's no respect in that. There's no honor in that. Nobody wants to be associated with that. They want to be associated with somebody like Trump where it's like, okay, the guy may make mistakes, he may make errors, he may say dumb stuff, he might, put us in this position where we look a certain way as a country, but at the end of the day, he's somebody who stands on 10 toes, period. And he's somebody who's going to keep it real with you 100% of the time. And he's unapologetic in who he is. And I think we live in a society, unfortunately, right now where a lot of people are afraid to just stand up and say, even if you look at our political landscape right now, a lot of people are afraid to stand up and say, I support Joe Biden or I support Donald Trump because they're afraid of what people think. But if you can put that thought process aside about what people think and just be unapologetic in who you are, that's what garnishes the most respect. And that's what people want to follow. They want to follow other people who are completely authentic. They stand on what they believe in and they're willing to die for that itself. And that right there to me, I mean, I can even kick this back to thousands of years ago during the Roman times. That was true leadership right there, where you're somebody who's willing to die for what you believe in. That's the type of stuff that in today's society is really garnishing the most attention. And attention is what's getting and doing the best marketing right now, right? And getting the most, we saw this with with his fundraiser page going down. As far as money's concerned, attention's
Yeah.
garnishing money too, and wages and business expansion and donations and all of this stuff. So it's a very interesting type scenario that we live in right now. But I'm glad a lot of this is coming up too, because what this is really doing, and this is something that I talk to the community about, is this is a very interesting time for you to be self-aware. This is a very empowering time to be self-aware because they're going to try to tug at your heartstrings over the next 6 months. They're going to try to get you to feel some type of way. They're going to try, and the idea behind it is control. This entire thing is control, and I think this is why part of the narrative is blowing up in the news media's face, is because they've tried for so long to just control one narrative that people are just sick of it, and they're waking up and saying, we're done feeling like this. We're
Yeah.
done, feeling hopeless. We're done feeling like our voices don't matter. And people are starting to wake up to it. And I think that's why what you were talking about, how, part of the left is kind of just done with the entire thing. And they're saying like, okay, like we see what's going on here, and we can't stand for this anymore, because there's only so much people can take before they're pushed to a limit where they're like, enough is enough. And you get to that point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I think that's what this whole, Trump verdict did, is it really pushed people to a spot where you had to choose a side. And that's why, from a marketing standpoint, this is one of the biggest marketing things that we've seen, And to kind of segue off that a little bit, I think over the past couple of years, it's been interesting to see what's happened with cancel culture and how, you know,
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
yeah, so cancel culture was really big over the past 3 or 4 years or so. People couldn't really go out and say what they wanted to say. I mean, I'm looking at like just stand up comedy as the biggest example of cancel culture, where stand up comedy just wasn't the same over the past 4 years. You had a lot of comedians that were afraid to say the things that they would normally say on stage, because they were in fear of what's the negative publicity that's going to come out of this, and is this going to end my career? And think about how detrimental that is to human culture, for somebody to not be authentically them because of what other people might do from a marketing standpoint, is something that, unfortunately, that's the level that people got pushed to because of that negative publicity. But here's the cool part. I'm going to end this with, just a quick positive, but over those 4 years, our stand-up comedy is really taking a shot, right? Like, we weren't
Mhm.
having the best type. I remember, pre-Trump and all that, we had some of the funniest stand-up comedy on the planet. And then for a good 3 or 4 years there, it was kind of like there was one or two good ones, and these were the people that were willing to push the line. But at the same time, when they were pushing the line, they're getting a lot of negative flack, to the point where they
Like
were
Tom
almost getting
Brady
canceled.
roast. That's so
That's
much money that
exactly what
come
I
with.
was going to lead into.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to lead into, was the Tom Brady roast. And just to see how that whole cancel culture thing, it's dying. I mean, I don't even want to give attention to it, because what you give attention to grows, right? But it goes to show you that people are now standing back on business, and they're saying like, no, like, we're not going to allow ourselves to stand in fear. We're not going to sit here and be pushed around by people who tell us we can't say this, we can't do that. It's offensive to do this. You need to call me whatever, X, Y, and Z. Doesn't matter. Like, the idea is the human experience. You should be allowed to be authentic all the time, regardless of what other people think or feel. So in the comments below, I know that we're starting to heat up a little bit in these topics. I'd love to hear you guys' kind of opinion on all this stuff. What's your opinion going on with the political system right now? The left versus right, the guilty verdict with Donald Trump. Do you think it was justified? Do you think it's not justified? Do you think that they're using this as a new level of marketing? And if so, how has it personally impacted you? And then to branch off that a little bit as well, in the comments below, what was your opinion of the Tom Brady roast? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you think we're in a new era now? Are you thankful for it? That's what the point of this podcast is, guys, is we want to start getting more interactive with you. We want to make this a podcast where it's not we I need to get Sean back on, but he dropped for a second there. But the point of doing these podcasts, guys, is we're going to start doing these podcasts live on TikTok, and then we're going to carry them over to YouTube. And we want you guys to be a big part of these podcasts. So if there's any questions you guys have, that's why I posted the Ask Me Anything up there. And that goes for Sean, too. Sean's an absolute marketing genius. He pays attention to a lot of different narratives, including the NFL narrative. They are ridiculous with marketing, and I didn't even realize it until he started sharing it with me. But the point of this podcast, guys, is this is just two talking heads right here going back and forth. But we also want to be a community type podcast where we're welcoming you guys into it. And we're saying, hey, we want opinions from all different sides here. We want to know what you guys are thinking about it. So if there's specific topics that we're talking about that you want to jump in on, feel free to put it in the comments below, or request to be invited. And, we'll throw you in here and get you on the podcast itself. But let's talk a little bit about, Sean, the Tom Brady roast, and how you know, that's it, it's kind of changing what we were used to with cancel culture. You know, I saw that, and my first thought was, thank God. Like, thank God we're back at a time from a comedy standpoint where these stand-up comedians can just be completely authentic and raw in what
They're
they
going.
say.
I am.
And
They're going so hard.
oh my God, who is your favorite one?
I'm a big fan. I've seen Andrew Schultz in person way back in the day. Was
Okay.
Patrick AP Pat? I saw him way back into I think it was like 2019, 2020. But I liked his, and then I forgot the guy. I forgot the names of every all, but I was it was intriguing to me. The thing that sticks out to me, I like what Andrew Ollie what he said, uh, but it was interesting to know they apparently they muted when Kim K came out, as far as when everybody booed him.
When she got
Uh,
booed, yeah.
yeah, so it was just the fact that they cut that out or they muted her being there. It was that was just a very telltale of like what people feel about the culture of things, despite people consuming it. Because that's the thing they wanted. Like, that's that right there. They wanted to control the narrative so hard of how people like just the fact that they didn't want to have that in there. I'm sure I don't doubt even the fact that she was like, you guys got to cut that out. I don't even doubt that to any degree where she probably like nut. She had to like have a conversation like, could you like cut that out or something like that. I'm just it's just interesting to see how they even then had to regulate comedy about Tom Brady, and then not only that but those that were there. But that was my favorite. Andrew Schultz, he's really good.
You're muted, Sean. Dan, welcome in. Dan, we're trying something new here. So Sean muted himself. I don't know how I managed to do that, but he's newer to TikTok right now. But me and him have had a podcast for a little bit of time, so we're doing the podcast on TikTok live now, kind of experimenting with it. So Dan, this is going to be more of an interactive type deal itself. Sean, if you need to, there you go. You're back. You're back.
Oh dear.
So you're. Did you
No,
say, "Oh
I'm just gonna
dear"?
D. And I just I made the mistake. I was like, I made a mistake in not D&D my phone. I have
I
somebody
got
call
you.
me now, so
That's the same
Dan the
thing that happened to
man.
me. And somebody tried to call me like 6 times. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, yeah. It was like
Yeah.
it was the longest ring of my life. But I don't know. In
Same.
summary, yeah. In summary, when it comes to the time raider, it was pretty. It was. I don't know. It's just cool to see. It was great to see everybody just kind of layer on because people really hated Tom. Like it's so interesting to see like everybody that was up there, they're actual sports fans. So to hear people talk like they really meant what they were saying because their team's probably been dominated by Tom Brady for almost 20 years, if not a whole decade. So
Yeah.
what they said, they really meant it when in the spite of them saying it. But um, no, it was. I don't know, it was just a lot of it was interesting to hear that Tom Brady said he kind of regretted it because people were talking about high IQ play about Giselle. They're like, he's like that was like the blunt of everybody's of joking. They were talking about Giselle as far as like being with other people. So I'll tell us all I could kept thinking about. I'm like she's. I was talking to my girls. I was like she's fuming right now. Giselle's fuming every joke. I'm like I want to know what her POV because she lost at the end of the day because it's Tom. Like it's the whole news of it was Tom was given an ultimatum to stay playing because he wanted to play because he's Tom Brady, and then Giselle was like you need to be at home, and
Yeah.
so and then she out of all of that she became like the brute force. That was so interesting to see how that kind of played out because everybody was using that joke to some degree about his ex-wife, and then Kevin Hart, he was a great host, and it's interesting to hear people have that debate about whether he's funny or not. But Tom Brady handled it like a champ. He handled everything by a champ, but he knows where he stands because his credentials really matched. So I don't know. I really liked it. It was just insane the fact that it was 3 hours long, which
Yeah.
it just speaks to what he's done and how many people were there and all the influences that they had there. They had all of his former players, key players. That was pretty interesting. And then Bill Belichick, they're smiling. I was like, I've never seen Bill Belichick smile ever, let alone in like side of like a couple of hours. That was interesting to see him.
I don't
And
think I've ever heard him talk. Like that dude always
yeah,
just has a smug look on his face, like he's pissed off 24/7.
exactly. So that was interesting. But that was my talk on it. It was interesting. I don't know. That's just we always talk about clips of content. 3 hours of content. I've seen so much repurposed content. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
this is gonna recycle forever. But
Well, I
uh,
thought what was interesting too was how Netflix was the one that hosted it, because they had a lot of just like cutthroat like stuff that 2 or 3 years ago there's no way that Netflix would allow that stuff to go on at all. Like they were making jokes about homosexuals and things like that, and like actually saying those words that 3 or 4 years ago like would have been canceled completely.
yeah,
And to have Netflix say, okay, hey, like we understand that this was a time in our history, but we understand that we may have made a bad mistake with that or whatever their thought process was. Just for me, that was the first thing I looked at, was to listen to all of these cutthroat, just like raunchy as shit that you could possibly say, and it's all on Netflix. And I'm like, that's that got me immediately back on the side of Netflix, because when they were in the like cancer culture phase, they're like pushing certain narratives and pulling certain movies off and things. I'm just
yeah.
like, dude, like that's not your thing. You know what I mean? It's not, you're a business who like you shouldn't get involved in things like that. You know what I
Dude,
mean? You're
they're gonna have a football game this year for the first time live. Because that's the thing. The roast was live on Netflix, but also they're pushing there's gonna be a lot more live events, which is also like a crucial turning point in like advertising media history when it comes to a lot of games are going to be on all streaming platforms in terms of
yeah,
Netflix. This whole Netflix or NFL, this whole NFL season is gonna. There's a lot of games, if not most games, are going to be. They're really trying to push all the games being on these streaming platforms that we have or we were sharing accounts for. But I thought that was interesting as well. Where they're going to have, I think Christmas Day, they're going to have a if somebody can tell me in the comments, they're gonna have a football game on Christmas Day. I think it's Patrick Mahomes and somebody, if I'm not mistaken. But it's gonna be on Netflix. There's never been a live hosted football game on Netflix. I'm like,
yeah.
whoa, that's crazy.
Well, I mean, like let's build off that a little bit too. So in the comments below, let us know who your favorite football team is. But kind of building off that a little bit, what's been interesting to see over the past couple of years is the buildup that the NFL's been doing, because they just had. I don't know if you see this, and I'm sure you do, because you watch the NFL's marketing very very closely. But
Yeah.
to watch these schedule releases and to see how creative these teams get with their schedule releases
Hmm.
is like it's to the point where people wait and like they look forward
Yep.
to a quick 2.5 minute video. What's this team gonna do? How are they gonna diss their in division rivals this year? And it's like to see how much they've been able to build on that one concept in 4 years, and now to see them scale that. Like I heard this news report, and I don't know how true it is. I'll have to do some research on it. But if you want to watch all of your team's home games this year with all the streaming services you'll have to buy or the ways to watch it,
$1,000,
it would
yeah.
cost you, yeah, it would cost you a minimum of $1,000. And that just goes to show you like how important marketing is right now, is like, because NFL has built itself to this international brand where we're sitting here talking about the NFL right now and how great their marketing is. And I mean, we really saw it during the, Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift thing, and it's been building since
Behind the
then. But
scenes.
the level of marketing that the NFL has taken, and now obviously you're talking about them building into Netflix and having a live, type, setting for their Christmas game is, it's not surprising to hear from me, because they literally, I don't like Roger Goodell. I am somebody who like that dude. Listen. He is fantastic for marketing the NFL. Absolutely fantastic.
Hmm.
But the way he runs the NFL and the way they do things, it just seems off to me. Like it could be run a little bit better, but at the same time, they're making record profits. And so, like, if you're one of the team owners or you get some sort of kickback from the NFL, you're loving what the guy's doing. You could give a shit less how much better he could be doing, because he's lining your pocket right now. But I think from like a consumer standpoint, I watch him and I'm like, man, this dude, can we get anybody else? But then I look at his marketing and I'm like, he's a genius. Like he's not, he embraces, and you can see this at the draft. He gets booed
Yeah.
every year at the draft, and
Mm.
he embraces it. He loves it. He just eats it up. He's like, I don't give a shit because we're still expanding, and it's like it's just crazy to watch what they've been able to do, like with the NFL in such a short period of time. But also to kind of piggyback on that a little bit, what I've been starting to notice, and I don't know if you've noticed this too, is how much more attention the WNBA is getting right now.
Oh yeah,
Like
that's it's hot with.
Caitlin Clark is. I know that their team is not good from what I've heard. Like I still don't watch the games, but I definitely try to keep up with like
Dan, what are you
Caitlin
talking
Clark
about?
and how she's doing.
Sorry, Dan said seriously, none of you recognize that. I don't know. I'm just, I'm
Yeah,
like,
Dan, I must have missed that.
I don't know
I
what he
must have missed
means.
that, Dan. Yeah,
Me
Dan, what do you
machine,
mean?
Paul Crew quarterback. I don't know. Are you talking about longest yard? That's my first thought. Anyway, so sorry. I
No,
saw
no,
that.
you're good. You're good. Dan, can you explain on that? We're kind of lost in conversation. Oh yeah, the Adam Sandler movie. Oh yeah, no, we recognize that. Sorry, man. I
Oh
just
yeah, yeah. See, longest yard. See, I
I
called it
was yeah.
immediately. I called it immediately.
I was going in for a second there,
No, we
Dan.
were
So I
just in
wasn't
flow
paying
state,
attention to
Dan.
the
We were just in
comments.
flow state.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah,
So Dan, that's how me and Sean do it. So me and Sean have known each other for close to 10 years or so. He's actually the co-host of the podcast. Dan, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do that. It's on YouTube right now, but we're gonna kind of be doing things a little bit different. We'll still be obviously in the studio from time to time, but I'm in the process of building a studio currently.
dun dun
Um,
dun.
that's that. Yo, it's gonna be so sick. I can't
No,
wait.
we're gonna get it together. We're gonna
But
get it
oh
together.
yeah, for sure. But obviously, we want to make this more of an interactive type podcast too. So this is our first like TikTok live type podcast. And luckily, what TikTok will do, and this is what I was sharing with Sean, is all of the podcasts are recorded for you automatically and they're shared on TikTok. So
Mm.
what we can simply do is if you're somebody who misses this podcast, not a big deal. I can pull it off of TikTok and easily put it onto YouTube. So that's something that we'll look to do in the future as we get this guy to 1,000 followers because we need
Oh
to
yeah.
see he's got a Tony Montana fucking shirt on today. The chest is out looking like a dime and a half right now. But we don't get to see that because TikTok limits him to you have to have
No, it's
a
done. I'm gonna make
thousand.
a focus on it. It's done because
It's
we're
done.
gonna be doing
It's
this.
done.
Yeah, we're gonna.
It's
Yeah,
done.
I just gotta narrow the
So,
focus on this, so it's gonna be good for everybody.
So down below, guys, make sure you share the TikTok live. Help us out as much as you can right now. This is a new concept that we have going, but also we want to make this as interactive as possible too. So we have 5 of you in here right now. We've had hundreds cycle in and out. Blessed and proud to have all of you in here, part of this community, part of this betterment of each other. We come at this from a standpoint of understanding that we don't know what we don't know. We're constantly growing. I'm simply somebody who got interested in finance about 8 years ago and decided that it was something that should be taught and something that we should have readily available to us. That was part of the Money Circle community idea. And Sean follows that same type of idea with his marketing. So we kind of take that holistic approach at everything going on in our society. We look at things like what's happening with Donald Trump. We look at, things we're getting ready to talk about Caitlin Clark right now and how
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
changing the marketing game for the WNBA.
Dude, the
But we take
comments
a
on
look at
those are
things like
so
that.
crazy, bro. That's one thing that's so interesting. Like any Caitlin Clark, like at least on Instagram, I haven't checked too much on TikTok yet, but seeing them talk about the controversy of Caitlyn and whether she's getting along with her teammates or,
Yeah.
if she's a bust or not. I haven't even watched any game, but it's brought me more and more as I see it. I gotta watch, but it's just the clips that I see. It's just this whole controversy of you know just people just downing her and all these spin-off narratives of oh my god, like I don't know. It's so interesting. People just playing victim mentality. It's honestly baffling, but it's polarizing, and so it's doing its job. It's doing it. I don't know. It's doing what it needs to do. But the polarization around Caitlin Clark in the WNBA is it's very high. It's
Yeah.
equivalent. It's equivalent to like the election or with this whole Trump and Biden thing right now. It's crazy when you look at the comments.
Well, it's good for because I know me and you on the last podcast talked about like the difference in pay scale, right? And so let's branch off this topic a little bit. So
Yeah,
for those of you in the comments, obviously, there's been a huge talk over the past decade or so with all women's sports about how women athletes are not getting paid as much as males are right now. So I made a video about 6 months ago, maybe a little bit less on this platform, and I broke down the numbers of how much percentage of revenue an athlete in the NBA gets as compared to the WNBA. And the numbers are actually not even close. I'm sure that doesn't surprise a lot of you, but
Hmm.
if we look at Victor Wembanyama, who was the number one overall pick in last year's NBA draft, and Caitlin Clark, who's the number one pick in this year's WNBA draft, from a percentage standpoint, Victor Wembanyama gets about 2.3% of total revenue from the team itself in his rookie contract. That number for Caitlin Clark is around 0.02% of total revenue. And that's just crazy to think about it. But here's what's kind of cool is I always look at everything with a positive light too, right? I think for a long time in the WNBA, part of the issue that they were facing is just that it doesn't command a lot of attention. We're not sitting here saying that women athletes aren't as good as male athletes, because I'll be the first one to tell you there's no way I'm stepping on a court with Caitlin Clark. Like, I don't want that put online. I want no parts of that.
You're
Like, I will
funny,
get
man.
straight. My ankle will break within the first dribble, first crossover she does. But the fact of the matter is unfortunately, as great of athletes as these females may be, there's just not a lot of attention going their way. There's not a lot of revenue coming in because, from a marketing standpoint, the WNBA just doesn't have a huge, marketing type basis. And do you attribute that, Sean? Do you think you would attribute that to the marketing team of the NBA, of the WNBA? Would you say that it's more so because it's a newer league? What would you say that that's due to? Because it doesn't seem like up until this whole Caitlin Clark thing that they were getting a lot of marketing attention, but now it seems like it's like immediately turned on. So what do you attribute like that change to pre Caitlin Clark and post Caitlin Clark?
Gotcha. All right. Fair warning. I'm objective to everything, but this is what I have seen.
Keep it
So
real. Keep it real. Keep it
exactly. That's what I'm
authentic. We
saying.
just talked about that. Let's
Of
go.
course.
He's
Of
about
course.
to go in. He's
It's
about to
just
go in.
no. It's. I've seen. I'm sure everyone's here that watching this. You've seen the videos where I've seen videos. At least I have. You all follow basketball. There's been compilations of people talking about women's basketball, and then it's just a bunch of just air balls. There's a bunch of just it doesn't seem to be a high performance play number one, but so it definitely is like a day and night difference in my eyes in terms of like talent. Like there's nobody dunking objectively, and then to my knowledge, NBA the NBA rate the NBA funds the WNBA. Last time I checked, I was talking to ChatGPT. And the WNBA has been in a negative for a while. But the one thing I think is interesting with Caitlin Clark, or why the spark is based off what I've seen. Nobody's with the narrative of with the internet has been a big catalyst, but she's had a demeanor that's just very that's caught flame and has become very marketable in terms of her tenacity and then some of her sparks of what she had in this case when she was at Iowa. Like she really tore it up when she was at the finals in Iowa when she was in college, and between her narrative of the narrative of her really, I guess, accelerating her skill set and then having the confidence that she has. I think she's one of the next elements of high caliber talent of today's age, with her being caught up in the marketing wheel of her personality being presented, because a lot of personalities have been presented, it seems, where people aren't leading with their personality. They're more so behind the scenes of who they are, but her skill set seems definitely seems on the rise. Like a lot of people are debating whether she's the best or whatever. If she has a bad game, people are crucifying her.
Oh yeah.
So it's just people are like, why aren't you carrying the hype that you got when you're in Iowa? So it's really hitting on the polarities of people being a troll. Like, see, she's not really good. Like no one's gonna have a great game always. Like, no one's a LeBron James. No one's a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant. Even Kobe Bryant wasn't sensational when he came out of college. He had to mature. He had to mature a few years before he actually became Kobe Bryant. LeBron James is one of those few talents where he immediately had like that transformative impact. Kobe Bryant was getting mentorship and essentially learning under like Michael Jordan when he played against him, where they had like that very unique relationship. And so with Kaylin, everyone's being super critical of her, but based off what I've seen, and I don't follow it now, I'm going to as time goes on because I'm seeing enough for me to become curious. Where I'm like, let me throw on a Caitlin Clark highlight tape. Let me see what's going on. Let me
Hmm.
see. Like, and for me, I'm just I have appreciation for just the art of sport, the sport of art, however you want to say it. Like for me, deadlifting, fun fact, one of the things that I do in my spare time is I deadlift, and right now I weigh 168, and I deadlifted 562 pounds, um, at 167.5 pounds, and I did it for me, and I take pride in the art of in the calculation that I had to put in place in order for me to lift that weight. And one of the things I have on my radar is 600 pounds. And then after that, it's going to determine whether I want to go up or jump into a different sport. But long story short, have appreciation for the sport. Most people that watch sports as a male, you have an appreciation for the athleticism. Like for me, I'm a football fan, but I have an appreciation for someone like Michael Jordan or LeBron. And so now my interest in this could speak for a lot of you that might be listening, that might be a fan of the NBA and you haven't given WNBA a chance, where you want to see if the athleticism is congruent, and that's what I've been hearing. So going back to the point is she's an ascending talent, and that's what I'm hearing the debate on. A lot of people are trying to play into that negative narrative, like people are saying, like, oh, black versus white. Like there's been all these black WNBA players that have been destroying it in here, and now that she's getting attention. Well, first off, I would see that as a positive. If WNBA hasn't getting any type of traction, regardless if she's black or white, like it's easy to divide. Like that's a simple-minded
Yes.
cop out to go ahead and say, like this just it just doesn't help anybody. First of all, she's a girl. B, we don't need to divide. We need to come together. And then C, like it's just starting, and need to ride the wave and leverage it so we can have money into it, because we always hear the conversation where people are saying, where are all the feminists that aren't there at the WNBA the basketball games? And it's like a true question where it's like, why are we complaining that the NBA doesn't get this funding, but we always talk about the differences in like equality and all these different things, but none of the people that are talking about all of these problems of inequality are at these basketball games. If in terms of supporting it, so
Right.
just from an objective standpoint, it's a lot of hypocrisies. But we again, this is a demise where people are dividing, where we need to come together. But I don't know. That's kind of what my thought process on it. Apparently, she's an ascending talent, so I probably tonight I'm gonna look up a highlight tape because it brought me to the point because it's marketed to me where I'm seeing people just cut up on Caitlin Clark. Good, bad. She's this,
Hmm.
she's that, and I'm like, it's just for me. I'm just eating it up from a marketing standpoint, but I'm trying to understand why. I'm like, okay, because I've never watched a WNBA game. Me personally, never. I've never done that.
Right.
So now I'm at the point where I'm like, let's see what's going on because she's causing some ruckus. And usually when the ruckus like this is happening, it's there's something worth to pay attention to, whether good or bad or indifferent.
100%. Yeah. And it's funny that you say that actually because it's like this is the first time I was telling my brother that like I'll probably buy a Caitlin Clark jersey to be
Yeah.
honest with you. Like, bro, like just simply because of what I'll put the skill set aside. Like I've watched a very small dosage of her. I mean, I saw her hit this three from like half court like Steph Curry in
Yeah.
college and I was like, "Damn, like this is she's out here just doing it." Like, you know what I mean? But like I don't really watch her like that, but I think from a marketing standpoint, she represents what I like to see. I like somebody who's unapologetically themselves and they're okay, like, because she is catching flack, like you said. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I'm seeing both sides of it where, like, I think her first game, she had like 10 turnovers or something like that. And people
Hmm.
are like, bro, you're the number one pick with 10 turnovers. But at the same time, it's like, you can't expect somebody to have, like, a spectacular. If you find one athlete that's always had a spectacular game, crown them immediately. Like literally just crown them because even Michael Jordan like has had a bad game. So it's like you can't judge people on that, but it's been interesting to watch at the same time like how much she takes that publicity and rocks with it and loves it, eats it up,
Yeah.
continues to go out there, continues to perform, continues to just give her all, and she's bringing energy into the WNBA, and that's something that I want to
Yeah.
support, because it's like what we started this whole podcast off with was being unapologetically you and being authentic
Yeah.
is what people want to
She
follow.
has my
They
respect. She has
Yeah,
my respect.
100%. And that's what it is for me too. Is it's like that alone, like I will buy your jersey. I will
Yeah.
rock that thing
Everybody's
every
a
day too.
victim.
Like
Everybody's a victim, and for her to go into a press conference and
yeah,
say she's just like I never thought. Like some of the stuff, that questions that she's getting grilled with, she's like, I'm out here to be better than I was last game. This is I'm not I'm not necessarily thinking about how bad I played. Obviously, my mentality is to win, and every game I get the opportunity to play, and I'm working on my craft, and I'm gonna let time do its part to mature me into the great player that I am. Because every game's not gonna be great. I'm like, dude, I respect it. Because meanwhile, every American is the most victim mentality being,
100%.
and it's literally a breath of fresh air to hear somebody just say, whatever. Yeah, I sucked. Yeah, I had 10 on turnovers, but progression is the only obsession, and I'm going to go ahead and be better the next game, and I'll take accountability, and we're going to go ahead and go into the next one. And it's eating people up because they're all victims of those that are consuming a victim story, or they're victims of themselves, where they want to blame, and she's already doing it, and
Yeah.
she's doing something that she doesn't necessarily need, but overall she's stoic in it at all. Where I'm like, okay, and that's the thing. I respect that more than anybody that's complaining about their current situation, because we all got stuff. And so, yeah. But anyway, not to cut you off, but
Yeah. No, no, you're good. You're good. Yeah, and it's you hit the nail on the head, because I'm very much somebody, and let's just face facts here. If you're somebody who complains about things and you play the victim and you say poor me, nobody gives a shit. Like
no,
I'll just call a spade a spade. Like if you're in the chat right now and you're upset about what I just said, good. Like feel that emotion, allow that to be there, because like it shouldn't matter what I say to you, because to be honest with you, we all have problems, but it's what are you doing about those problems that's going to get you the result that you want. Because if you're sitting here complaining, this is what I talk about on the community all the time. If you're sitting here complaining about your financial situation, about how we're in record debt right now, inflation's crazy, cost of living is way high, groceries are high, gas is high, we're all experiencing the same thing. I got news for you. And I'm just going to use my example. And I know there's millions of others examples out there. I had one of the best years ever I've had in my entire life this year financially. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because I don't live in this world of I'm going to create excuses given the outside circumstance. No, I'm going to understand what the outside circumstances are, look at them objectively, and go, what changes can I make in my life to get better so that I'm not at cause of these outside
you know
circumstances?
what's
You know
gonna
what
go
I mean?
crazy? You know what's gonna go crazy, Rick? So get the Caitlin Clark jersey, and then you start making clips. Those are
Oh,
gonna
bro.
hit. I promise
You
you.
think so? You think so?
100%. And then you start
Okay.
tying in the stuff that we just talked about. People are good. It's gonna start a conversation like any no like nothing. So
Bro, on the next
I,
podcast episode, I might be rocking that thing, dude.
that's
I'll
all
just
I'm
have a
thinking about. I'm
picture
like,
of her
you
in the
doing
back, and
clips?
then
Yeah, that's all I'm thinking about. I'm like, you doing clips in the
dude, I'm
Caitlin
gonna
Clark
order
jersey?
one. I'm gonna order one
Yeah, do
tonight
it,
for
bro.
real.
Do it, bro. Do
I'm
it.
gonna do it.
It's
So
gonna
Sean,
pop.
we're at an hour. So we're gonna end up cutting this thing. That's usually how long we keep the podcasts at, just for digestibility sake. And obviously, what we want to continue doing moving forward is with this podcast. This is a first for us doing it here on TikTok, right?
Mhm.
I like this format personally because it gives you as an audience a chance to be interactive with us and give us some feedback on the things that we're saying, number one, but also some topics to build on and talk about too, because your opinion is valid. We want to hear that. Obviously, the things that me and Sean talk about on here come from our own perspectives, our own point of views, and our own information that we have, but that doesn't make it the absolute truth. You have your own situation, you have your own thoughts, you have your own beliefs. Those are the things we like to hear. This is a community of being open, honest, communicative, and just being willing to accept each other's point of view. So we're going to start doing these TikTok live podcasts a lot more with Sean. But one thing I do ask for those of you that are in here watching this TikTok live and podcast right now is go follow Sean right now. TikTok is silencing his face. They're allowing him to speak, but
No,
they are not showing his
no, we'll
face,
do
and
one
he needs to get
collectively.
to 1,000. We will
We'll do one
definitely do that.
together, at some point, and then yeah, I'm gonna make a focus. I'm just gonna go all in because I haven't devoted enough attention to TikTok that I need to. So
I mean, with your marketing skills, it should not take you long to get to 1,000.
exactly.
I
So
mean,
I'm
bro,
new to
bro.
finally devoting it.
So
Despite being behind the scenes, but between that and then doing one with you collectively, like live with you on your account when come over there, then we'll do that as well. That'll be dynamic
yeah.
where I can
And
yeah.
I got some people too that I'm going to start communicating with, some influencers who I'm personal friends with, who I'll start getting them on TikTok lives too, so that we can all just benefit off of, obviously it's important that we build a community, right? And the
Yep.
community is understanding what's going on from a marketing standpoint, but also a financial side too, right? That's what our podcast is focused on, but it's really more so just to help guide and navigate all of these situations that are happening with us. That's why we touched on the topic of Trump and his guilty verdict. We touched on the NFL. We touched on Caitlin Clark. We touched on a lot of different things. And the reason why is because these are the narratives that are being pushed to you right now. And that's okay that they're being pushed to you. It's how to navigate them that's ultimately going to make sure that you come out the victor on the other side. So make sure, if you haven't, that you follow Sean, follow this account if you're new to the community. And you guys see I have the subscribe button there. The name of our podcast is Market Moguls on YouTube. That's where we post all of these. So we're going to start doing a lot more podcasts. We want you guys to be a big part of these podcasts, because let's face facts, without you guys, we don't have a platform. We don't have an audience, and you're a big part of what we do here. Super thankful for it. So with that being said, make sure you follow Sean. But Sean, any closing comments?
No, just thanks for having me on. I'm glad we did this, and then I'm ready. I'm ready to compound on this and continue the podcast and just get more diabolical with
Diabolical. I like it.
our talking points as time goes on because we're gonna get more consistent with the pile that we talked about. But no, I'm excited, man. I love our dynamic. It never fails.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, all right, Sean, you take care, and you guys have a good night as well. I don't know the next time we're going to do these TikTok lives. They're kind of sporadic, but make sure that you are following the page if you haven't already, because you'll be notified when I do launch a TikTok live, and you're going to want to be a part of it because, like I said, I want you guys' feedback on all these topics that we talk about. And if there's a make sure that you drop it in the comments. If you want us to touch on it, we'll make sure to do that for you. But other than that, you guys have an awesome rest of your Saturday, and take care.